Hello, everybody. How are you? Everybody's good? Cool, cool. So my name is Matthew Smith. I am the STEM career coach here at Towson University. So I work with students as well as faculty members and student groups with all things in terms of career development. So if you needed help with a resume, a cover letter, internships, a job opportunity, or even help with interviewing, I'm here as a resource for you all. I really appreciate your attendance here today. I also would like to really extend my gratitude to the Hill Oak Scholars Program for their willingness to collaborate and support efforts such as this with women of color in STEM. Really quick, I'm passing around the Tiger Leap information. So this is a job shadowing program for students. So students will be, if you participate, students will be placed with a expert in their field of interest, in particular in STEM. And what will happen is really like a one-day internship. So you'll have the opportunity to connect with a professional, talk to them about their field, find out what advice do they have for you to succeed in this field. If they have any other tips for you. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to go over really briefly the requirements for this program. So what you'll find on the front, there are information dates. So this is the information sessions. You'll have to attend one session in order to participate in the program. Also, if you turn to the back of the sheet, you'll find some of the participants. These are not all of the participants, but these are some of the participants. And then at the end of this Women of Color in STEM event, if you have any questions, you can speak to me as well. All right. I would like to introduce our facilitator for today, Crystal Amari. So I'll let Crystal just give a little bit of information about herself, and then she'll also introduce the panel speakers. Okay,
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Amari. I'm currently a junior here at Towson. I am an information systems major with a track in business. And as far as like my own career aspirations, I want to do something in cybersecurity. Our first panel is Dr. Raj
Kulagani.
I'm sorry. We also have Dr. Mary Davidas. We have Dr. Aisha Ali Gomez. And then for our student, we have Rosalind Najab.
Yep.
Awesome. So our first question for the panel is going to be, please describe your journey, who you are, a brief history, and what you currently do.
Okay, Dr. Kodani.
Could you repeat the questions?
Yes.
Sorry.
Please describe your journey, who you are, a brief history, and what you currently do.
I'm Raj Kulagani. I'm a professor of physics here. I've been here at Towson since 2001. About my journey, it started long ago in India. I had my undergraduate education, postgraduate education, PhD, all from different parts of India. So I graduated with a PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which is my final degree. And then I came over here as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Maryland, College Park, where I was a postdoc and a research scientist. That's a typical career path that most PhDs follow on way to academics. At that point, I had a choice whether to work in industry or in academics. My field of research is applied materials physics, material science, so that's a lot of industrial applications. But at that point, what guided me to my present career is the fact that I like to work with people. I would like to work particularly with students and undergraduate students, and Towson offered that opportunity to involve people in my research. So I joined here as a faculty member in 2001, have been here since, and the other key part of my journey is I'm also the program director for the Applied Physics Masters program, which we developed early in 2011. So we are now gearing to make that program more interdisciplinary, and that where physics meshes up with other disciplines. So, and my passion is particularly to involve women in physics and other interdisciplinary related fields for the physical sciences, where we are an absolute minority. And so that's my personal passion as well. That kind of describes my journey, where I am. Okay. Anything I left out from what you wanted me to?
I'm sorry?
Did I leave out anything from what you want me to share? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I see the room is very silent. This is a very informal session, right? So you are welcome and free to ask us questions and deviate probably a little bit if Matt and our student facilitator allows you to do that. So my name is Mary Devdas. Like Dr. Kolagani, I come from the Indian subcontinent, so I was born and brought up there. I finished my master's degree and a pre-PhD degree called Master of Philosophy in Chemistry from India. I worked there for 6 years in two actually women's colleges before I transitioned to the United States to pursue my PhD degree. So I received my PhD degree in 2012 from Western Michigan University, after which I did a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Notre Dame before I took up this faculty position in the year 2015. So currently I'm an assistant professor in the chemistry department. What I do for a living is I teach inorganic chemistry. As far as research goes, I engage a lot of undergraduate students like yourself in my materials research program / nanoscience related work. And this is my 5th year, and I'm at the stage where I can submit something called as a dossier to be evaluated to become a tenured faculty member in the department and move up in the ranks to an associate professor.
All right. Good afternoon. So thank you for the kind introduction, Crystal. My name is Aisha Ali Gumbe, as she mentioned, and I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Computer Science and Computer and Information Sciences. My role is teaching and research in cybersecurity and digital forensics. And I'm originally from Nigeria, which is a West African country in the Sahel. I grew up in a very small town of Gombe, which is the last part of my last name, where I had my primary and secondary education. From there, I proceeded to the capital of Nigeria. I did my university education, got my bachelor's degree in computer science. And then afterwards, I worked for about 5 years. I got married, worked about 5 years, moved to a different city. In between, I did an MBA. And then I decided there was just something missing in my career that I just needed to change a job. So I made a huge change, and I moved from the industry where I was working in a bank, so I moved from the bank to the academics to a different city. I took a job as a graduate assistant. From there, in 2011, I came to the United States for a master's in computer science. And then by 2013, I got a fully funded scholarship for a PhD program here, which was in engineering and applied science with a major in computer science with concentration in information assurance. So I finished my PhD in 2017. The same year, I started a postdoc, and then I got an offer here at Towson as a faculty in the Computer and Information Science Department. So I've been in Towson here for about 2 years. I manage a lab called Malware and Forensic Technologies, where we do amazing cool research and ethical hacking and just about every kind of cybersecurity that you can think about, mobile security, computer security, forensics, and stuff like that. So that's about, just in brief, about my journey. I think we're going to talk about the aspirations in a minute.
Awesome, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roslyn Ajit. I'm a third-year student at Towson University. My major is information technology. It wasn't my first major. I was IS, and Towson isn't my first school. I went to North Carolina A&T my freshman year, but I did transfer, and I had my first initial major was speech pathology, which is kind of like very, not graphic, but it's an extreme change, but I don't regret it. I currently work at a career center as a career community student outreach assistant, and that's similar to what Matthew does, and that's helping students, like undergraduate students like myself, with your resumes, mock interviews, cover letters, and that sort. Thank you. So we just had Dr. Claire Mahara join us. Thank you. And the question on the table right now is, please describe your journey, who you are, a brief history, and what you currently do.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. It's really nice to be here with this panel. So I'm a professor of chemistry. I teach organic chemistry here at Towson. I've been here for many years, 15 years. And before that, I was at a different institution, Shippensburg University of Pennsylvania. Taught there for 5 years. What do you want me to say?
Brief history and what you currently do.
Brief history. Oh, how much time do I have? Brief history. I'm an organic chemist, do research in organic chemistry. I've mentored students over the years in my lab. We have a couple of projects that we do. One is in classic organic chemistry, and another one is in the area of environmental organic chemistry. And that one has a study abroad component, and we've tried to merge classic organic chemistry research with science policy and trying to think about how chemistry impacts society more broadly. And I think that this is an approach that I get really excited about because it allows students to contextualize the science in the larger world around them. So brief history, I like the other professors, did a PhD, was an undergraduate researcher. That was really important in helping me sort of get a sense of what the possibilities were. And the journey has never been without challenges, but a lot of rewards as well. And I'm sure we're going to get into some of these things as we discuss further. So thanks again.
The next question we have for the panel is what experiences, whether in undergrad, graduate, PhD, what experiences prepared you for your aspirations?
I'll go first. But like I said before, I just got into IT, and I love it. But the best experience I had is networking and talking to my professors at least after classes. I don't have any internship experience, but at least taking the extra step and asking these professors what they've done in the past kind of gives me my experience and what I want to do. And also researching, being uncomfortable is probably my best advice because you really don't know what you want to do until you figure out what you don't want to do.
So undergraduate research is a short answer. The reason I was attracted to the field of research which I'm in was entirely just because in my undergraduate institution that was the only field where faculty members were doing research and I had an opportunity to participate in research. The other part of my undergraduate education that's really valuable up to till today is an ability to have an interdisciplinary perspective of science because I had to take courses in biology, chemistry and physics, quite a lot of them, and before I branched into physics. And so that gave me a broader sight and a perspective of my field and how I want to work. So those two were my most valuable experiences. Then collaborating and working with people in teams, that was very important. And I learned most of that in grad school. All of that kind of prepared me for the job that I'm doing today. So yeah, that's my answer.
I guess it's my turn now. So, what are my career aspirations? Other than the fact that currently I am a faculty member and I love to teach, my future endpoint, the pinnacle of my career, if I have to describe that, would be to make it to the President of the United States Scientific Advisory Board.
Oh, gosh, I thought President of the United States.
I can't. Unfortunately, if I was born here, yes, I'm eligible to be the President of the United States, and I would have loved to do that job.
Well, then be governor. Be governor of Maryland.
Probably, yes. I'm starting my canvassing right now, right here in this room, to be a senator and a governor and whatever else. But my career aspiration is to get onto the Scientific Advisory Board of the President of the United States, like one of the professors at Northwestern University, Professor Chad Merkin. So he was a pioneer, he is one of the pioneers for DNA nanotechnology. So if he could do that, I'm sure I can do that. And I think I have to be a citizen of the United States even for that job. So let's say my immigration paperwork doesn't come about at the right time, in the right place. I have a backup job that I want to be in sometime in the future, which is to be the president and CEO of a university in the United States or wherever else in the world, where I can be affecting change that I wish to see in the world as far as academics goes. Because I feel when you are a leader and when you are in a position of power, you have the, the right tools to make the right decisions and enable change for the betterment of everybody involved in that particular organization or institution.
All right, so my career aspiration, again, my role is a teacher and a researcher, so my career aspiration is to be the best educator that I could be. And in that, I want to be a teacher that can inspire her students and positively impact them in every way that's possible. And also an academician that will make a difference and hopefully someday be able to make some huge, significant research contribution that just goes beyond my research area, but, you know, something globally. And I have this, you know, big ideas in my head that, you know, I want to solve some really, you know, critical cybersecurity problems. So that's where I want to be, you know, hopefully someday. How you have some experiences that, you know, kind of prepared me for this aspiration. I'll probably not characterize them as experiences, but rather something that I feel I have in me that just kind of keeps drawing me to this, you know, to my career, to where I am today. So teaching, which is one component, has always been an integral part of my being. It is, you know, a passion that I've nurtured from childhood. The idea that I can, you know, help people learn and in a much bigger way kind of learn from them, just, you know, it's something that I just love to do. So for the most part, it's just come naturally to me, and I just love to teach. I love to interact with people, and my classes are mostly very interactive classes, which Crystal happened to be one of my students, I think 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago.
Right. So I just love to interact with people, and I think that's where the teaching comes from me. But when I moved my job from, I was working in a bank and then moved to the academia, I needed something else. Like there was some spark that was missing in my life. I know that I'm somebody that really loves challenges. You know, those challenges that would just keep you at night, like, you know, you just like, you know, trying to solve some, like, you know, rocket science problem, like, you know, overnight. So I just love to have that, you know, you know, something that can just activate my brain and just, like, you know, triggers me to kind of, you know, identify that there's some problem, I just want to solve that problem. But I never really get to find that thing throughout my undergraduate, because of course where I did my undergraduate, there was limitation on resources and stuff like that. So I did a couple of research, but it wasn't like really rigorous research. And then I came to the University of New Orleans in 2011, and I met my professor, who happens to be a professor of information assurance. He introduced me to research in cybersecurity, and God, this was exactly what I was looking for. The challenge was just, you know, it just kept driving me to just kind of keep doing it, because like every day I just think about, you know, oh, we have this problem, like how can I come up with a solution? And then I just put in the, you know, the pieces of the puzzle together. This is exactly what was missing in me. So together, this is, you know, all encompassing in my career goal, which is, you know, my passion for teaching, and just, you know, this challenge that research occurred to me that, you know, put together just my career goal as an educator just revolves around those two.
It's hard to beat things that have been said here. I think that for me, I continue to want to have impact at whatever level that is. So I think that, you know, working with students and getting the satisfaction of helping them prepare for their lives, I think is very rewarding. And this is why we do what we do and why we continue. And that can happen at multiple levels. And so for me, you know, just having that kind of impact at whatever level I'm working at, I think is going to be something that will continue driving me to work in this space. I think that, you know, we with advanced degrees, one of the things that you learn, in addition to becoming a domain expert, is you learn how to be perseverant, you learn tenacity, you learn how to be comfortable in new situations without your usual crutches and your scaffold of familiarity. I think that's a huge asset that allows for sort of the ability to dream big and to think big and to aim for new positions. So in terms of what I can point to as having prepared me, I think that's one thing is the domain expertise in my subject material, but then these other sort of soft skills. And the other thing that's really important, which I think you may have heard here, is the importance of being able to orally communicate and convince others of your ideas. And that's something that in our university, through your core courses, your speech classes, your humanities classes, there's a lot of emphasis in that. And I think that, if you listen to President Schatzel or Provost Perot, one of the things that they're both very good at is communicating, speaking. And I think that to the extent that you're able to get experience in doing that, I think that would serve you really well going forward.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next question, I just want to ask you all, I know that whether you started your STEM education in college or in high school, we have all always heard that there's a lack of women in STEM. There's a lack of women in STEM. I've heard that all throughout my high school education and college. So if there are any questions that you all have for our panel now, I think it would be a great time to ask about internships, classes, what it feels like to be hearing no all the time. Yes.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah.
It's a two-part question. One is you've talked about never wanting to stagnate, continuing to move forward towards things and innovate, not only your community but yourselves as well. But we know that you're somewhat busy currently, and so I'm asking, do you have any time management tricks or techniques that allow you to carve out time for self-development? And it also, how do you determine what skills you will need to cultivate, and how do you go about cultivating them for being president of a university and provost of the university and chancellor of the system? So how do you find the time to continue to develop yourselves? And how do you seek out resources that allow you to develop the skills that you need to cultivate?
That's a tough question. I don't think I have an answer. That's the question with which I wake up every day. And my aspiration would be really to find an answer to that question. But for me, it's just a question of letting life experiences teach you. So I learn as I go along from each day and each experience and each person that I come across. And wanting to make a change is very important. But then one thing that I've realized is you cannot start with big changes. You need to start with small little things. And the fact that you talked about time management, that's really so that was going to be my answer for the biggest hurdle, because I juggle a lot of things and very challenging situations on various fronts of my life, and that's been a real problem. So right now, what am I doing? I'm practicing or learning about mindfulness. I'm learning about present-centered awareness that lets me focus on what is here and now, and I know that will pave way to the next one. So I know this is a spiritual dimension, not so much that people will hear a physicist or someone else speak in that direction, but I think those components of life are also very, very important to let us find our way, because there are going to be challenges and it's never optimized. So yeah, that's my big answer. Thank you. Next.
So speaking of time management, it is a tough task being an academic, because your job is not a 9-to-5 job. So you are continuously working 365 days, 24/7. Either you're doing grading, preparing for class, writing a grant, helping a student write their proposals, etc., etc. So in my experience, what I have found beneficial is to have targeted goals and deadlines in mind and set up your calendar. That calendar is very important, that you need to list the goals for that particular day and deadlines for that particular week, for example. Other than that, I am blessed with having parents and male members in the family, my brothers, who support and encourage me in whatever I do. So if they can help me with something, they are ready to help me. And they give me the, the moral support and backing to do whatever I want. They push me sometimes to achieve, rather they believe more in my efforts and my ability than I actually sometimes do. So they are always a positive influence in my life, driving me forward and moving me forward. So that helps me stay on track, keep myself engaged, and get the balance that I need.
I think I will kind of buttress some of your points, because that's exactly what has been like, guiding me, and especially in terms of like time management and, kind of getting to my goals. Two things, which is the support system and then also the target. Now, for my target, so I'm going to give you this story, which was funny. I asked the chair of my department, when I was coming to the university, and he asked me, what kind of system do you want in your office? I said, I want this, this Mac system, the big one. He was like, okay, that's fine. They got me a Mac system. But I also have a MacBook Pro, which, it happens to be a very good system, that's very efficient. So I always work on my laptop. But so I kind of, in a way, turned my office system to a sticky board. So one day he came to my office and he found more than 16 sticky notes like on my screen, and he was like, Aisha, do you know how much we bought this system? Like, you cannot make this a sticky board. I was like, oh my God, Sid, like, I don't know, like, wow. You're coming. I would have to see you because, so those sticky notes, I do this a lot. And, if you work with MacBook, you know that you can just swipe and have a dashboard where you can have lots of sticky notes. I just cannot survive with sticky notes. I was so mad at Mac because with the new version of Catalina, they just phased out the dashboard, so I cannot have sticky notes. I spent like about 5 hours at night the other day when I upgraded to Catalina because I could not find, where to put my sticky notes because dashboard wasn't there. So I needed those sticky notes. Now, why am I talking about sticky notes? Because that's the way I put in reminders for myself about my targets. So if I, beginning of the year, I'll be like, I'm gonna submit to 10 conferences. Okay, and I know that's like overkill, right? So I probably will end up submitting to 2. But I'll put in all the submission deadlines and the conference dates and all the details I need to know. So I'm gonna have like from the beginning of the year, I'm gonna have like 20 different sticky notes like on my dashboard, and in fact some of them are stuck over others, and just to keep reminding me that okay, this is my target, I need to achieve this. Okay, I'm pre-tenure, so I know that okay, when I'm putting my tenure papers, I need to kind of fall back to this. Then how many papers do I have to submit before this? This year I need this target and all that stuff. So when I set up target for myself, I just make sure that at least to some extent I achieve some of this target. And just for me, that sticky note, even though it's very I don't know, not computer sciencey thing, but it's just an easier way for me to kind of remember that I have target. Now the second thing is the support system. I happen to have one of the best spouse in the world because he supported me throughout my journey. At some point, he worked in Nigeria, but he just took like a 1-year leave of absence to come stay with me so I can finish my PhD and, stay with my kids and just kind of be the stay-at-home dad. And I just don't think I could be able to achieve what I achieved without really the support I got from him. At some point, I bring my mom over, and thanks to parents, parents are the best, right? So my mom comes over, stay with me and my children, so I can be able to kind of, be able to get those my aspirations. And the last thing is, if you ever want to, pursue a graduate program and PhD to be precise, please get a good advisor. Okay, get a good supervisor. That's just the best. If your supervisor, that is just bad. My supervisor is the best. Like, he was funding me, but he never expects, he doesn't care whether I come to the lab or not because he knows Aisha is going to deliver. And in a way, he just makes me have those sleepless nights just so I can deliver in the morning, even though sometimes I can't be in the lab maybe because, my kids have school day off or they're sick and all that stuff. But, he was very supportive. And even at some point I had to ask him that, I think, Golden, you kind of believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. And truly he does. He pushed me harder. He, not in a very bad way, but in a very good way. He just kind of showed me that you have this ability to do this. What, you can do it. You can actually do it. Just, give it a shot. You're going to do it. I'd be like, I'm not a native English speaker. He was like, that's not a problem. Just put the stuff there. We're gonna fix it. And he will fix it. And he will ask me, like, he'll just come to the lab someday and he'll be like, have you ever been to this conference? Then I'll be like, no. He's like, you need to register. I was like, oh, how? He was like, yeah, just go and give me the expense. Just tell me how much it's going to cost you to go to this conference. I will not even be presenting anything. So he was really a backbone, and he was like one of my, supportive partner. And I still collaborate with him today as as just a collaborator. Our relationship is just no more mentee-mentor. It's just, he's my advocate and a friend. So if you ever want to pursue a graduate degree, just look for that, advocate, look for that very good professor to hang out with.
Oh, okay. I'm not a graduate student, nor do I have any degree, but I can say, eventually, but I can say the things you do now do set yourself up for the future. And as a high school student, well, I already graduated, but as a high school student, I just kind of just went through the day. I never had any time management skills. I never wrote anything down. I just literally just went through the day that came to me. And that kind of set me up in my college years, especially my first year, because I kind of thought that was going to happen. I thought I was just going to get my test. I was just going to do it when I can. I was just going to go through the day, and obviously I fell short. So with time management, you're going to have to want it. You could tell yourself all day long, I want to do it. But at the same time, action means louder than words. So you could write down everything, but what are you going to do the next day? So I always tell myself, okay, what didn't I do yesterday that I want to do today? And if that's waking up early, then I completed one goal. So it's the little things that you do that make the big effort in the next day and your future as well, too.
I have very little to add to what was said here. Management, time management, and the support network, and the aspirational, the mentors and champions, I think are all very important. I think the only thing I might add is taking time to listen and to watch people who you admire and who you would like to emulate, I think is something that is a practice that I think is helpful as you try to think about your trajectory. Yeah, we're very busy. You're right, Beth. I mean, there's just not very many hours in the day. But watching what other people do, women who are successful and who you would like to emulate, is one way to sort of maybe get a template of how they were able to do what they're able to do. And you don't have to necessarily. I mean, one of the people I watch very closely is Madeleine Albright. She was, the first female Secretary of State. Do you guys know? You know her, right? Some of you may not know. But she was the first female Secretary of State in the U.S., daughter of immigrants, she was born abroad, right? Yeah. So she couldn't run for president, but she was Secretary of State. And is a very huge proponent of women in leadership, and has been able to do many things, including having a family and manage a very high-profile career. At the same time, remain very grounded. And those are sort of qualities that, one can aspire to. And so reading those people's biographies, people like her, I read biographies like those, and watching how they work can give you some kind of sense of how doable things might be, and how within your reach those kinds of aspirations are.
What piece of advice you would give to students on their journey in the STEM field?
Okay, I'll go first. What should you do? you have to keep working hard. Never settle for mediocrity. Do not listen to the naysayers. Because the second you stop working, then you become stagnant in your career and then you cannot move forward. Because you need to keep yourself competitive at all times if you want to reach that dream career or dream goal that you have in your life. So keep working hard, harder, and never stop.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. So, so I want to leave you with some words of wisdom, which happens to be my father's vision. So my father is a very great advocate for STEM, and he's gonna spend an entire day trying to convince you diligently that you should consider sciences. Like he believes science is just like the best thing that ever happened after slice of bread. So my father believes the future is STEM. Even though he was born in the 1930s and he's late today, but he so much believed that the key to the future is STEM. And every 21st century problem has some STEM-based solution. So I think you all have your hearts and minds in the right place. So I'm going to say stick to it and you'll never regret. He also believed that capability is gender neutral. And I'm a living testimony that the color of your skin, your gender, your affiliation does not determine your ability. I grew up in a region where the rate of girl child education is less than 50%. But I'm also from a household where my ability is just the same, is seen as the same as my male siblings. So I had this, support from my parents that, you can do it as much as everyone can do it. Your gender has no, backing on, whether you can be able to succeed or not. So break those stereotypes and assumptions, and especially, I'm talking from experiences in computer science where we have very low number of females and people of color in pursuing computer science degrees, and especially in cybersecurity where that is even much more lower. So just break those stereotypes because you can, because you have that ability. And lastly, just remember, again, my father said that success is not an option but the only choice. So you have the ability to do it. You can succeed, you can break boundaries and shatter those glass ceilings. My mantra has always been win if you can, lose if it is most, but never, never give up. Mm-hmm. So just go kill it.
I'll probably say success is what you determine it to be. So I know for me, I have a lot of lows, but when I do have highs, they motivate me to keep pushing. So something as small as graduating from high school, I always remember the feeling of finishing and how I felt, and graduating from Towson, just thinking of how far I've been in this journey as well too. So it's you're always gonna have your lows, but your highs will keep you pushing, and you will always continue to have highs if you just have that right mindset.
Yeah, and I just a reality check, which I keep reminding myself often, that certain fields have been male dominated, and I keep thinking, why was that? And there are, there's multidimensional answers to that, but long ago, a lot of things that people had to do or challenges or tasks involved physical strength. And I remember in my PhD, my male colleagues, and I was kind of blind to that because I did not even realize that there is anything like discrimination or gender bias. I went with a very open mind because I wanted, but then there was we had to open this big nitrogen tanks, and then I really my hands did not have the strength, so I would have to depend on someone. And I knew they would take that as a point to kind of point that, oh, you're not good enough for this. It took me a while to realize that this is not all about opening nitrogen tanks, and right now we have all mechanized things, and I can write a program that will open the tank for you, so I don't need you anymore. So you will find, especially when you're a minority in any situation, you will find those sort of situations where the majority will try, and it's human nature, and I think I'm not blaming anyone for that. But be sensitive to that, at the same time realize that those are not your limitations. And then I want to add another side to it. I do not believe that gender difference is not real. There is gender difference, and I think the world is evolving in a direction where what we have to bring as women, like I consider myself as a person who both sides of the brain kind of active, and that can be a major problem sometimes when you're sensitive and you're empathetic and then you also want to achieve. Those things come head on at some point. But I think the world is headed in a direction where that piece of what women bring, or what people who have empathy and caring bring, are really important. And being STEM professionals, I think it's very important for us to think, how can STEM make a difference to the world? How can we make a difference to others? Yeah, we all want to push our careers along, we want to be successful, we want to be somewhere, but where is all of this heading, and how is all of this related to the rest of the world? What difference are we making? And that's exactly what I would really invite all of you to give a thought and take that as an empowering aspect. If your work makes a difference, that is success. That's more success than 10 papers or any recognition anyone else can bestow on you. So that's my thought.
And just to build on what you said, I think that science, I don't know if you go back, who's the founder of science, if you go to, I don't know, Plato, Aristotle, so 2,000 years of science have been dominated by the male paradigm, we can agree, right? For the most part. I think there's a lot of room for your voices, your thoughts, your experiences to bring a new direction to the scientific enterprise. So I think one thing I would say is that you're really positioned to be a new, fresh approach to the way science is done. Looking at problems, bringing your life experiences, building collaborations, and then it doesn't have to be like dull and boring. I mean, it can be fun. When I joined this university and joined the Department of Chemistry, the number of female faculty in the department was 0. 0. There were no female faculty in chemistry. And I'm the first female faculty member in chemistry that I know of to have had a baby. The men had babies, but the women didn't have, there were no women to have babies, faculty members. And so I remember Cindy Zeller and myself came in at the same time, and we were buddies. And one of the things that became very clear to us is we love our, boomer colleagues. They're going to retire soon. But having a population of faculty that was 80, 90% male for a student body that has more than 50% women just seemed to be lopsided. And over the years, we've increased the number of female faculty in the department, and I have great friends among them, and this creates an environment where multiple perspectives are brought together, new opportunities to collaborate are built, and I don't want to be the only one. I want to be able to, have interactions, human interactions with members of my gender. And I think at the Hills Lopez ceremony, Barbara Hill talked about sitting at board meetings where she's the only female, and then during the break, right, the bathroom break, all the men go together to the men's room, and she's the only one who goes to the women's restroom. And as the men are walking to the restroom, they're continuing the conversation that was had around the table, and she misses out on all of that. And so I think that the charge for you, if I could leave you with one, is to build that community as you go. It's not fun to be alone. It's not fun to be the only one. And you're in a position where you can do something about it. I always tell my 10-year-old daughter that she's powerful beyond measure. And I think that's what your dad and your brothers and others have said about the strength that you have within you. And I think that for us as human beings, I think part of what life is sort of tapping that power and realizing it to the best of our abilities. So that's all I have to say.
Can I add one comment to that?
Sure.
So the chemistry department is now 60% women, faculty.
That's right, yeah. And we match the student demographics more or less, yeah.
Demographic, but importantly, whenever we set out to have faculty search, we have never said, we need to hire another woman. We
That's
have
right.
hired women because they have been the best candidates. They are the best person in the room for the job. Not just because they're women, but because they're the best candidates. And so I would add to that you are not going to be the best women in STEM. You are going to be the best in STEM with no qualifiers.
That's an excellent point, yeah, very true.
Awesome. So I want to thank our panel, the Career Center, and the Lopes Scotland Scholarship Program for hosting this event for all of women in STEM. I think it's a great space for us to meet and network. I know for me, I always feel like I don't know where my next step is or who to talk to. So seeing faces of people who are in my major and who are in my career field and seeing that it is possible for it all to happen is great. So I want to give our panel a round of applause. Thank you for being with us today.
And then I just want to give the floor to Kristen from the Hill Lopes Scholars Program to talk about an info session for those who are not a part of it already.
Yes, so if you're interested in learning more about Hill Lopes Scholars Program, we're a program and a scholarship, so we are in the process of developing programs for all students here in Fisher College, but with the goal of uplifting women in STEM. So in a couple of weeks on November 14th at 5:30 on this level of Smith, we're going to be having an info session, so I have some flyers up here. And you can come talk to me if you want more information. We have some of our current scholars in the room. And yes, we're glad we could partner for this panel.
Before we end this program, I wanted to open the floor to students. So the focus of this event was women of color in STEM. Thinking about the supports that you already have here at Towson, what do you think would be helpful to women of color in STEM at Towson University? I would love to hear some of your ideas if possible. Sure. So what supports do you feel would be helpful for women of color in STEM at Towson University?
I think one is like kind of what we're talking about, just having more representation. I'm only a second year, but I've never had a female of color as a professor. It's mainly like men. So just having representation around just creates like a safer space to just be able to talk to someone.
Anyone else?
Maybe just having students be able to, I guess, contact is letting them know that there are professors here that are women and also women of color, and just letting them know, just making it more available, just letting them know like, hey, we have these teachers here and you could like go to them if you want to maybe like have a similar conversation as we did today about like their experiences and how they like came up in the STEM field. So just having those resources available for students and students who want to be in STEM.
Anyone else?
I think a list of conferences. I know that for my field, like the Grace Hopper conference just went on like a month ago. I didn't know about it, so of course I didn't sign up, and seeing it kind of like sucked. So maybe like a list on the Career Center websites about like conferences and different majors, like when the date is, how to get like scholarships for it.
Just to piggyback off of what you said, hi, I'm Elisa Safety. I'm the External Outreach Coordinator for the STEM career community. And to that point, we have a couple of site visits to employers coming up that I'm just going to share with you. You can go into Handshake. We'll be publicizing more over the next week. But on Wednesday, November 15th, for those of you that are computer science IT, we're taking a visit to Allegis down in Hanover, Maryland, where you'll have the opportunity to hear from the IT leaders there. There'll also be an interactive training session with them. You'll get to learn a little bit about what they do, etc. It's going to be a great day. We provide transportation. It's free. And they'll be providing lunch. So Take a look for that. You can go onto Handshake Again events, and that's Allegis. And on Friday, November 20th, for those of you more on the life sciences end, we're taking a trip to AstraZeneca in Frederick, Maryland. There they have the largest biomanufacturing site. AstraZeneca is a tremendous and whole global company doing biologics, that type of thing, so it's great, I think, for biology, chemistry. Again, these are opportunities for you to go take a look at different workspaces, meet different employers, and actually meet those that do hiring. And it gives you an insight into what's happening out in the world, even if you're a first year, second year. But please take advantage of those. Those are things that we're doing, we've been doing, we'll continue to do, and these are the two coming up in this month.
So did you mean Wednesday, November, so Friday is November 15th and November 22nd. I think probably you had the dates
I had it
switched.
switched,
Yeah.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. Just
What is it again?
you said Wednesday,
It's Wednesday, November,
well, Friday is November 15th.
Friday, November 15th is
And-
Allegis,
yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Wednesday, November
Two
20th
days.
is AstraZeneca. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I've been doing
Just
that.
making sure, yeah.
God, if you see it on Handshake World, just let me know. Okay, thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes.
And this is maybe something for Dr. Kautzman and yourselves to consider. And it's a big ask, but so we've heard about the importance of having mentors and champions. And I think that your point about having representation is a great point. That's something that the provost should hear. In the interim, how might we cultivate those mentors amongst our male colleagues? Is there a way for us to, we've heard how fathers and brothers and myself too, I had a very supportive father, and as an undergraduate, it was a male professor who encouraged me to apply to Yale. I got my PhD at Yale. And I wouldn't have thought about applying to Yale were it not for that male professor seeing that potential in me. I'm not by any means saying that all male professors are going to be the best, but we do have male faculty who are in powerful positions, who can write that letter, who can pick up the phone and make that call. How might we think about cultivating mentors through that resource without by any means sort of trying to subjugate or second place our very powerful and strong and very productive women faculty. So how can we grow that pie is my ask and my question for you guys.
I think we already have tremendous champions for us, and I agree, trying to figure out how, I think we need to figure out what we want to ask. I think they are
Yeah.
there, and I think they are ready to champion
Right.
anything that we would choose to do. The question, I think, is along the questions that Matthew is asking, what do we need?
Mm-hmm.
Because once we figure out what we need, we can start asking, and I don't, from the colleagues that we have, I don't think anybody would say.
No, I agree with you. I think they're just waiting for an invitation or some mini marching orders or something.
Right, and so I
But
think some of the things that we are asking for, I think, include more opportunities for conferences, more opportunities for research, but I'd like to have this discussion.
yeah, and along those lines also, how to intentionally reach out to your women students, women of color students, and invite them to join your research lab, as opposed to waiting for, the guys will go and approach the male professor and say, I want to join your lab, and the barrier might not be as high, but for women approaching a male professor or women of color approaching a male professor who might be doing work that's really interesting, how might we facilitate that so that they have in their minds, the male professors, that this is an excellent group of students who are not reaching out to you for whatever reasons, and you need to do an extra step to bring them into your research lab. I think that's a place that we can probably start in terms of, in research labs, doesn't mirror representation of our student population.
So, Sorry.
I was just gonna mention that one of the pillars of the Hill Oak Scholars Program is community. And so I really rejoiced at the notion of, oh, I want to run for president, or be a president, and let's campaign, or I want to be the provost, and joining together, because that's important, just to uplift all women. So something that we're trying to do is have 10 scholars each year that can lean on one another. So if when they go off into the workplace, they can call each other and say, how did you negotiate your salary? How did you get this? So they're not alone in making that approach. So I think we're trying to build community, even though all of our scholars have different majors and they have different career aspirations, that they will have one another. And that hopefully they will have other mentors and other folks. So they can say, hey, I'm gonna go approach the professor about the lab. Can you come with me, or can I talk to you after? So we're trying to kind of build that echo chamber, starting young with that echo chamber in that community, to kind of help with some of that.
That's
so it'll
great.
be a little organic, but it's helpful, and especially as women, it's really helpful because we like groups. And even just on this panel, we grouped together to form a college leadership board in one in one snap. So community, I would say, is one
Yeah,
of the
that's
answers
great.
to that. Sorry.
Yeah, so actually I also want to talk about the community. So recently there was a new student club in my department, which is called Women in Technologies. I don't know if you've heard of it. Okay, so I attended their meeting, and so one of the things that kept coming up is, the assumption and the thought, that women are not like, the computer gurus kind of, there's that stereotype that, we don't do as much computing, we don't do as much games as the male, colleagues do, even from childhood and stuff like that. So how, when I went to the Grasshopper this year, so this is a celebrations for women in technology, and somebody made mention that women oftentimes do not apply for a job until they're 80% ready for that job, while men do apply for a job when they're like 20% ready for the job. So because they have, they have this, confidence in them that they think they can just do it, they can learn on the job. But we usually would just, think we cannot do it, we cannot succeed on the job. So we usually wait until we're sure we're gonna succeed before we get to apply for the job. So what we discussed in that meeting was, how can we then encourage, our female students so that they can have that confidence in them, we can boost their morals, and in a way they can, approach a professor like, I really like what you do in your research, can I be in your group? Because for the most part, professors may be really in some way busy, they may not necessarily be able to monitor or, identify some of the students that they think could really work with them. But if a student is confident enough, that student can really knock on the professor's door and say, I want to be on your team. I think you're doing an amazing research and I love what you do. I want to be on your team. So if we have such kind of community, there's gonna, you see that there are people like you, and I think like the representation, as the other lady just mentioned, it's very important. People like you are doing it. You can actually do it. There's like nothing different in that. You don't have to like know how to do games to like really succeed in CS or IT or IS. Like you could pick it up and just like, run with it and be the best there. So if we kind of build that confidence and that morale, I think, our students can be able to go knock on professors' door and like join their teams and really excel in their teams.
So I think that it would actually be helpful to have some like way to get to know each of the chemistry teachers. And actually, because I don't know like what each individual person is researching, and it's hard for me to actually then reach out to, like I've had to ask like, I don't know, 20 different people of who would be the best fit for me to research under. And now it's just a matter of me trying to reach out to them, but then, I don't know, I feel kind of awkward about it because I don't know who they are. It's a weird, they don't know me.
So there is stuff on the website. If you go onto our faculty web pages, there is some information about us for the most part.
Yeah, I found some things on there, but it would be nice to have like that face-to-face interaction and actually
have, so that it's not just through an email and they don't actually know my face and they don't know who I am or what I'm about or anything. I guess that's just, and like, I don't know, reading like a synopsis of what you guys are doing is.
Yeah.
So I'm from the physics department. I just came from a physics majors meeting where we exactly do this. Like every faculty member gets up there. We are given just 2 minutes or sometimes even 1 minute to stand up there. So they do put a face to and websites of course are there, but some of us are not really good at we just don't have the time to make the website so good. So websites are not all equal. So I think having a personal, event for interaction might be great. Yeah, we've been doing it in physics and I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
I know one of the things, like me working on being with Dr. Suji and Dr. Walden, one of the things they always say is you have to advertise yourself, like more or less like sell yourself, because it's, for them, it's like they have so many things they're doing, so for them to actually pay attention to you and know that you really exist, you have to really show that you exist. So it's like me, what I did to get into people's lab is that I had to go to PubMed. There's this guy they call Yuri. He's working under Dr. Gordon. So you have to I read different articles of the professors, and even if I don't understand jack of what is happening, I did not understand what was happening, but at least I understood something. So I sent an email showing my interest into the lab. So it's like I've done the work before they give you the work. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing the work, and then you can now go on Towson's website, Google the office hours, or call them, and they can have a conversation with you and stuff like that. And I know that's what I do.
So Matt, I'm really curious. How many people here are biology majors, chemistry majors, computer science, math, physics? There's a physics major whom I have not interacted with. Great, thank you. I'm going to come after you. Okay, all right. Great, thank you for being here. But there are a lot more physics majors who are not here and women of color. So, I did not get time to reach out to them because I was juggling too many things. We might want to think about how events like in physics particularly is severely underrepresented for women. Unlike chemistry, we are hearing 50%. Physics is still below 25, below 10, so we are really struggling. So this will be really important for physics, so having that.
So I just want to just add to what everybody said about your question. Probably I'm the most recent graduate here because I just graduated from grad school 2 years ago. And so when I came in 2011, I took a course in, I just saw the name of courses, and I was coming from Nigeria. I know no one, in the department. I know nobody. And so I just picked my courses right from Nigeria, sent it to my academic advisor that, I want to take these courses. So one of the courses I took was Introduction to Computer Security, and I've never done anything security in my undergrad. I have no idea about security. I was like, oh, that sounds like, a new thing. Why wouldn't I just try that? So I took that class, and then the professor was nice. So I asked him wow, I love what we do in this class. Can I, maybe do my thesis with you? He was like, no, he's actually leaving this semester. He was leaving the university, but there's this other professor that's very good in this area. Why don't you just go talk to him? I was like, oh my God, he's a full professor. How can I just go talk to him? I didn't even take his class. He was he's nice, he just loves for students to come meet him, go talk to him. He encouraged me to do that. To be honest, I couldn't do it. I just felt oh my God, I just cannot go talk to him because I looked at his papers online, I looked at his website, I was I'm no match for this guy. I cannot just do that. But what I did was the next semester I registered for his class. So the good way to really interact and get to know a professor is be in his class or be in her class. You get to have that first-hand interaction, and most professors always chip in their research work in their class. They always talk about what they do in research. If something interests you, then you can kind of create a relationship, and in a way, he's going to definitely notice you in his class or in her class because, you belong there. You're going to have 16 weeks of interaction with that professor. And from there, I kind of get to know him, and then I was able to gather some confidence, go meet him in his office, I want to do my, I thought maybe if I can do a master's thesis. He was like, yeah, that's fine. Come to our meeting every week. So every week when I come to the meeting, I always sit like at the end of the room because like I don't know what they were saying. But like PhD students and postdoc students and like fellows, and I was just like go sit like at the end of the class. But he always called on me because we're very few females there. So he'd be like, Asha, can you say something? I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say. But then like, you know, just within 1 year, 2 year, I just got exactly what I want to do. I was already ready to finish my master's and I got the PhD and I just continued to work with him. So the best thing is just get to be in the professor's class and you get that connection you want. And if, you know, that research area is why you want to work on, you know, you can get that relationship.
Are there any more thoughts or ideas on ways to support or engage women of color in STEM at Towson University? Okay, I want to thank again the panel speakers for their time and their willingness to come here. Also, I have to really thank Crystal Lamar as well. Talking to her and just really hearing some of her ideas, she was one of the ones that actually put this like on my mind to have something like this where we can engage women of color in STEM. So I really want to thank her as well. And again, thank you, Kristen, and the Hill Oak Scholars faculty, as well as students. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for those who are in a part of the Hill Oak Scholars program for attending as well. Thank you. All right. Feel free. Actually, for those who are not in the Hill Oak Scholars program, I actually want to get your contact information, your name, and your email address, so that if there is any follow-up to this event, I can actually contact you. But for those who are in the Hill Oak Scholars program, you can also talk to faculty if they have time. Okay. Thank you.